And if we can just be that more curious and that little deeper level. And IT by design was built off those relationships. In your situation, what are you telling people to do? Or what are you wanting to get done?
Trevor, my friend, truly appreciate you coming to contribute to the development of ITBD community. We truly appreciate it. Team, Trevor, he's such a wonderful human being. He is so driven by his purpose to help others. He has 25 years of experience, and his podcast is the top podcast in globally, not only in the US. And he works with companies as a keynote speaker, advisor, executive coach to connect the top to the shop. And he also serves as a president of Kentucky Indiana National Speakers Association chapter. And Trevor learned from his family, friends, and co-workers where results come from. He takes the conversation to a very deeper level when it comes to really people and caring about people. And let's have fun today. Please join me in welcoming a Canadian who sold his snowblower and snow tires and now loves living in Louisville, Kentucky. Trevor, over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Sonny. Yeah, I still got to be careful driving because I go back to see my parents often and my kids there. I do move around a lot. And yeah, it's just a privilege here today. This whole life by design from IT by design. Like, Sonny, like just the fact that, you bring people together on a weekly basis. Like that's a commitment. And that just warms my heart, right? Just to see you here together. I was working with a manufacturing owner and they would just come in and it's a family-owned business, probably about 50 people, and they would just come start running the machines every day. And I'm like, hey, you know, one best practice is that your team gets together in the morning, like before you turn the machines on, and you just get together and you talk about the expectations for the day and communicate anything from yesterday. And he's like, we're going to do that every day. I'm like, yeah, every day you're going to talk to your team. And now if you talk to him, like his mind's just like he would never not meet with his team. But to meet with your team on a weekly basis, like that's incredible. I just want to congratulate everybody on this call. Like this is something unique, and then it's a privilege to be brought into this conversation and just be part of your community for an hour. So yeah, but when someone asks to allow you your time, there's nothing more precious, and I'm grateful for that. And so yeah, a little bit about me. And in 2019, I'm running this business, and I'm in Louisville, and I go back to Ontario, which is about an 8-hour drive, and I go visit my son. I'm excited. He's starting school, right, and college on his own. So I get there, I knock on the door, and I'm wondering what's taking so long. Eventually, he opens the door. I smile, I lean in, and I give him a hug. And I'm inundated with this smell. Okay, maybe it's not the smell you're thinking of. In Canada, marijuana's legal. It's not that smell. It was like old socks and like a garbage dumpster smell. And I'm like, dude, like get your life together. Gross. Uh, so we make some small talk. And at this point, all I'm wanting is a glass of water. And we get to the kitchen and I spot this countertop and it's camouflaged with dirty dishes. What can I not find? A clean glass. So I look at Dyson, and I named him that before this popular vacuum cleaner came out. Dyson, my son. And I'm like, dude, you need to do some dishes. And he looks at me. It's like, huh, you're not in a very good mood. I'm kind of thinking it's hard to be in a good mood when there's all these dishes and the garbage isn't taken out. Like, come on, man. So I leave that night and I'm frustrated and I'm disappointed. And I'm not curious. I'm not using curiosity. I want those dishes done and I want to help them and I want to motivate them to do those dishes because that's my intention. My intention is to help them. I love my son. But I didn't make any progress. But in life, and you guys work together, a technical group, very task focused. Like we like to get it done, right? And we like to get tasks done, and we also got to work together. I like to see the dishes done. I like a place that doesn't smell like old socks. So when you think about this, so today's going to be a little more. Today's going to be fun, interactive, right? I want to kind of this. I think you're having the cameras on, and we're going to make this conversational. And I want you to think when you talk to one of each other at work. Sounds like IT by design runs very well. I mean, you're doing this weekly. You're way ahead of many other companies, but you may run into situations where you're maybe not aligned with a teammate, or maybe you're trying to get something done, or maybe you got something at home with a family member or a friend that maybe you want to see something different, right? Because that's where usually stress comes from, is that we want things a certain way, but they're actually this way. And we want that to be different. And then how do we approach that? For me in the dishes, I wasn't curious about like why the dishes weren't done. I'm just like, dude, you need to do the dishes. So if zero on a scale from 1 to 7, and Trudy's going to help with a poll here, but on a scale from 1 to 7, and 1 is being, I'm kind of like Trevor. You know, I go in there, I just want to, go through. I'm not really curious about other people as much. Um, but I'm very driven. I'm a good person, and I like to get things done. 7 is like, man, my emotional intelligence, my awareness of others, and being curious of like, why do people behave in a certain way, or what's beneath that problem. Like I'm super curious. I'm just a curious person. I don't judge at all, and I'm just like I'm a pro. I'm a 7. So on a scale from 1 to 7, like how generally curious do you think you are naturally, right? Like right now you may be because we're talking about it, but on a day-to-day basis, you're going through the routine. How curious are you? Okay. Wow. Okay, this is a curious group. We got some 7s. They're super curious. All right, I may need your help today because a lot of times I'm learning with you, and I feel like I'm serving my former self. Um, but a majority around the 5 or 6, okay, and 4. Okay, cool. In general, you're pretty curious about others. That's fantastic. And it doesn't not surprising coming into this group of high performers this morning. The whole concept here is if we can practice that whole curiosity, we're going to have a different outlook on it. And when I say that, I mean we practice a curiosity, which you're already doing at a high level. And really that's how we get better results. And whatever that result means to you, right? That result, because usually in a relationship, and I know that one of the key, foundations of your group is relationships. And I believe that that's probably why, as a group, you're generally more curious than the average group I work with, which is exciting. When we're more curious, we understand better about others. So I go back to Kentucky and I'm talking to my girlfriend then, Diana, and I'm ranting to her about these dishes, right? Because the dishes is a big problem in life. As I'm ranting, we're sitting on the couch. She leans over, she grabs my hands and says, do you think something else could be going on? Maybe, but you can still do the dishes, right? You can still take out garbage, right? If you've got problems in your life. That's what I'm telling myself. I'm not there yet, guys. So I go back, and if you can believe it, those dishes are still there. And I'm about to lose my mind. So I just kind of ground in this whole curiosity and really kind of take a different thinking to it, which is hard. It's hard to change our own beliefs. And what I know for sure is that what I've been doing hasn't been working. And if I want to see a change in Dyson, it's going to have to start with me. So I get in there, dirty dishes, and I just said, "Hey, Dyson, what's going on? How are you doing?" He says, "Dad, I'm just kind of hanging on right now. I just broke up with my girlfriend. I'm stressed out about school. I'm really struggling, and I could use your help. Life's problems aren't about the dishes. It's what we see on the surface." So I just respond with, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't have a clue. I want that connection. It's my son. And I want that with you all. I want that with people that I work with because how you show up impacts on how people feel. And how you make them feel determines the extent to which they can engage with you." And I'm like, "How can I best show up for you now?" Says, "Dad, I can't stop drinking." He's 19 years old and he can't stop drinking. And I'm worried about the dirty dishes. Life's problems are not about dirty dishes. The problems you face today are not about dirty dishes. It's usually something below that. And that's what Dyson and Diana taught me. Trevor can't just hammer through life. And I joke sometimes about using the F word. Feelings, the feeling word, and if we can just be that more curious and that little deeper level, then we can find out and we build those relationships. And that's what we're talking about here. And IT by Design was built off those relationships. So thanks for letting me share that story about Dyson. And I just talked to him last night and we had a bumpy conversation. But we're still having dialogue. So I think the real difference is that with these relationships and what you're building with each other, is that as you invest into it, it starts to compound, right? So you can have those deeper conversations faster because results do come from deeper conversations. They don't come from telling people what to do, telling people to do the dishes. Like that really worked. So it's really finding out, like, in your situation, what are you telling people to do? Or what are you wanting to get done? So I've got a little framework to share with you all here today. And this framework involves three different gaps. The first gap is the showing up gap. The showing up gap is that space between how we think we show up versus how other people see us. So I thought I was being a pretty good dad. Motivating, aren't I? Looking for a round of applause from you all, like, yeah, make them do the dishes. Like, no, no, no one's applauding for that. That's not building a relationship. When I ran a manufacturing plant, just like on here, I wrote, leave your emotions at the door. We have work to do. And what I should have said is that Trevor doesn't have the skill to unpack how you're feeling today. So we're going to have an okay day instead. And we're just going to push through. It was really a lack of skill from my part because it wasn't that I wasn't a good person. Because I believe there's that kindness in all of us. And we can be kind and we can hold people accountable and each other accountable. That is kind. Clear is kind. Brene Brown, that's a shout out to her. I'm a big fan of her work. And clear is kind is one that's just resonated with me that I didn't understand. So this whole showing up gap. So that's three gaps: the showing up gap. We're going to talk about the expectation gap, and then we're going to talk about the action gap. But like as you see here, our intentions don't always match other people's perceptions. Intentions versus perceptions. Because the intentions don't matter. Like with me going to his apartment, it didn't matter that I had actually intended to help him. How he perceived that was, my dad doesn't see me. No one sees me for what's really going on. And when we talk about this whole transition with, we're more aware now of mental health issues and psychological safety in the workplace. Like, how important is it when someone just a coworker comes up to you and says, "Hey, you seem a little off today. What's going on?" How does that change that feeling? Because how you feel drives how much you can engage, and how you feel often comes on how other people are showing up. But I went a long time, folks, with not knowing that. I thought I was always showing up great until I got a truth teller in my life. Truth tellers. Anybody have any truth tellers in their life? People that will tell you how you're showing up, maybe what you don't want to hear. And so you guys can all be truth tellers with yourself. And I want you to kind of build off this day and have some more conversations around, each other. And when it comes from care and kindness, and that's where we got to dig inside. Is it kindness? So when I was running a manufacturing plant, I got a call from corporate and they needed some information. So we got hundreds of people, and I pulled the main supervisors and some engineers into a room. I says, okay, this is what we need to get done. This is why we need it. This is what good looks like. You got this? All right, let's make it happen. Oh yeah. I go back to my desk. I'm feeling pretty good. I start working on some reports. And Amy, my executive assistant, walks in. She says, huh, you really pissed those guys off. What? I just, I told them what they needed to do. I've got a lot of leadership training. I know how to deliver a message. She's like, I don't know. But here's what I know is that they're not happy and they were happy when they came in the room. And I also know that you don't see it. So I thought I would tell you. That's a truth teller. So Amy and I had a relationship, have a relationship. She just texted me, and this is like 10, 15 years ago this happened. If she doesn't come in that day and call me out, then I don't get the significant emotional event because I go back out to the line and I talk to one of the supervisors, Randy. I say, how's it going? Fine. Oh, you know those fines? I'm like, okay. So what's going on? Like, how are you really doing? And he's like, you want to know? We're having a great day. You pull us in the room. You do all this talking, and then you spin us in different directions. And today, we're probably going to lose 10% production because of it. He must be confused. No, he wasn't confused. So I brought everybody back in the room and I let them do some talking, questions, and let them talk amongst themselves. And there it was: communication, dialogue, conversations, engagement. The answers were in the room all along. We won't hear them if we're the only one talking. So a monologue makes me sad. I was doing a monologue. It was a one-way conversation the first time I went in the room. The dialogue, that makes me happy because what I realize is that it's about a conversation going back and forth between two people. A monologue is just, hey, I'm telling you, you just need to do this. It's not how our brains work. So when we have a conversation, we go back and forth. Trudy and I were talking about like the setup today, and we're going back and forth. I'm asking her some questions. She's asking me some questions. She didn't walk in and say, okay, this is how it works. You got to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, you got it. And then I didn't show up as, hey, I'm the speaker and you need to do this for me. It was just, we just got to know each other. We had some conversation of like, hey, Trudy, what would good look like for this team today? And that's a dialogue. So this showing up gap is this whole concept of those intentions versus perceptions. So when we're disconnected, so if you think of Dyson and these dishes and we're not really connected, and you're disconnected from someone at work or home, disconnected from someone at work or home, what are some of the feelings you experience? How do you feel when you're disconnected? You're not connected, you're just not on the same page. You don't know why. Feel that. They're unhappy with me, indifferent, frustration. I'm just blank because we're just not connected. You get uneasy, annoyed, uncertainty, sad, feel lost, confused. You pain when you're disconnected. Pain. Yeah, absolutely. I felt pain. Disengaged, worried, disappointed. Yeah, pain. That's one doesn't come up a lot, but I do. I felt pain last night. I had a little bit harder conversation when we're still working on this. But when you feel those feelings of pain and disappointment, and you're worried, so Barbara Fredrickson coined this whole positive emotions. We used to think like, positivity at work is just woohoo and petting puppies. But there's so much science now around when you feel pain at work, when you're worried at work, or you're not engaged, or you're confused, you're lost, you're sad, those negative emotions, it limits your brain from being expansive. So when we're talking about IT by design, we're talking about creativity, we're talking about working together. And I believe that these sessions that you guys show up for, there's 132 people that showed up today to learn together, to be together with Sunny and Trudy and the rest of you. I mean, that's fantastic. And that kind of, sets that foundation of that relationship. And then allows you to be more expansive and be more creative. And IT by design being that wonderful place to work, and your clients feel that. Um, so then when you are on the same page, so it's going good, right? We're helping a client, we're solving problems, we're making some progress, we're having some hiccups, but we're utilizing each other. We know that everybody is all in, and that could be again at home or at work. But what are some of the feelings that you experience when everyone's on the same page? And I'm just going to read this one here from Kim. Anxious and confused. It feels like the person doesn't like me, especially when there's no reason or nothing happened. And suddenly the person, yeah, that is so confusing when all of a sudden someone's not being clear. And maybe there is something that's bothering them and they're not bringing it up. And that uncertainty, oh man, that causes me to be confused. Yeah, what are some of the other feelings that you feel when you are working well with others and you are connected? You're confident, you feel more assured, more motivated, positive, empowered, aligned, loved, absolutely. Clarity of mind, you're comfortable, positive, you feel safe, the whole psychological safety, excited, unjudged. Yeah, they're not judging me. They want to help me do better. So the positive emotions scientifically causes our brains to broaden and build. And when we're in that positive emotion state, we can be more creative. We can show up better for our clients when we go home. I like to joke around that some people would say, "Well, I'm like this at work, but at home I'm like this." I'm like, "Did you switch out your soul? Like you're in the same body, you're the same person." And when you work at a great place like IT by Design, and you're continually improving here at work, you're going to continually improve at home. So when you're getting into this space of maybe not being connected, because it's going to happen, right? We're not all on the same page, and sometimes what we're thinking in our mind, we're not transferring out through our facial expressions or through our words. So I got a few questions that I like to use. Um, when sometimes, and this happens with this, I use this with my mom a lot, when we get off on the wrong page. And I'm like, why is this conversation going sideways? It's kind of like someone else's comment. There was Kim there that said, I get confused, like people are like, don't like me all of a sudden, or that's how I felt like with my mom. She's mad at me, or people at work. So I'll just stop for a second. I'll just say, hey, are we connecting on this topic? Like just kind of a pause. It's almost like it's you, it's me, and then over here in this chair is the problem we're talking about. Like you're not the problem, but am I making you feel like you're the problem? Are we connecting on this topic? Another one I like is this conversation helpful? And usually people will say, like, no, you're annoying me right now, Trevor. It feels like you're attacking me. Okay, good I asked, because I didn't want to attack you. I didn't walk in here, but my intention isn't landing with how your perception and how I'm making you feel is how I show up is how you're going to feel. So right now, I'm making you feel, and we just had both those negative feelings, right? So I'm not building trust. I'm creating more misalignment and this more fight or flight of like, I got to be more protective and I'm not going to tell Trevor exactly what I'm feeling because I feel like he's attacking me. And then the last one is this one's a little more dangerous. How am I making you feel? So I've started using that one more, right? Because I got more comfortable with that one. Like, how am I making you feel right now in this conversation? So you can fill out that, pick one of those. Which one of those would you be more comfortable using? All right. Let's see those results, Shruti. Wow, pretty even. That's interesting. All right. Well, we can use all of them. Are we connecting on this topic? A little higher. But yeah, that's great. Okay. Second gap, the expectation gap. This is the space between, what we expect of others versus what others believe is expected. So it's what we expect versus what others may believe is expected. The flip side of that is the other person, right? What do they believe is expected from us? And sometimes we just have that gap on expectations. And we talk about that, but what does that actually look like in action? You ever had someone so angry at you that they were stomping their feet when they were talking to you? So I'm standing there in this plant and I'm looking up at Tom, my boss, like stomping his foot, so angry that his line is down. So I've got the rattling of these steel conveyors in these seats, but they stopped because we ran out of seats. And I'm the guy that's responsible to get the seats in here from the seat company around the corner. And he's talking to me, and I got longer hair then. It's the 80s, okay, maybe 90s. And it's like he's talking to me so loud, it's like the hair on the back of my neck is blowing back. And he's just so angry that his line's down. As Maya Angelou would say, is that, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. And this is and the highlight here for you all is that when things do get stressful, extreme events drive extreme emotions. And if we keep that in mind, that's the time that we have the least amount of control in how we respond to a situation. So we don't rise to the occasion in stressful situations. We show up to the basic level of our training, of our skill. So I'm thinking, I gotta get out of this place. This guy's gonna eat me alive. Like I didn't go to business school for this. I just want to get out of the building, at that point. And so the line did get back up. And Tom and I mended ways. But I thought, what drives a good man with good intentions who I had a positive relationship to act like this? So when I started doing all this work, I intended to tell this story about Tom being the bad guy and how, leaders need to show up. But then I realized the person that needed to learn was me. Like we talk about expectations of each other. Like what was my expectations with Tom, right? Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I got this. And I don't want to bother my boss about work. Like he's running the whole plant. It's a big deal. But I wasn't curious about him. Like what works for him? Like, Tom, how often do you want me to contact you? Tom, here's my situation. And clear and close that expectation gap. So whether it's a coworker or whether it's a family member, again, I was talking to Dyson last night about, and I didn't get into it too much, but just expectations. Like, what's your expectation of like how responsive I am with you as a dad? Like, because like, yeah, I know you're busy. Sometimes you don't connect with me. I'm like, what? Like, unless I'm doing a presentation, I answer the phone. Like, I get back to you. What's your expectation of like that I'm showing up for you and I'm connected and I'm there for you? So I just tell that story with Tom because it made me think a little bit different of those extreme events drive extreme emotions and then what we can do ahead of that to get in front of it. Because once you're in it, it's pretty tough. You just got to know that, hey, this is an extreme situation. So with my son example, the question that I would use with him is like, what does good look like to you in our relationship? Or what does good look like to you in responsiveness to each other? And with Tom, I could have said, hey, the seat supplier is struggling. I'm responsible for transportation. In my role, what does good look like to you tonight? Because they're struggling a little bit. And what does good look like? Another one I use is just like if I'm not sure on the expectations, or if I see someone's like not doing their job as well as they normally do, I can just ask, what's going on? And when that comes from a place, now you can say, what's going on? Like that's probably you can tell the difference with the tone. The other one is asking why. Like, why is this not done? When you start a question with why, it automatically puts us on the offensive and someone else on the defensive. So we start to create a separation when we want connection through those deeper conversations. And then the other one I use is, if we're not hitting our goals, and maybe it's another department, that you work with, IT by design, you can say, how can I support? How can I support? Right? You're not taking the responsibility off the person. Oh, you could just do my job. Well, no, that's not really supporting, but like what help do you need right now? Because I know you're a good person. I know you've done good work, and I know that you want to do your best. Which one of those questions would you be most comfortable using? All right. What do we got there? Okay, how can I support? 66%. Oh, IT by design. How can I working together? I'm feeling the love here this morning. This is good. Yeah, how can I support? Um, that's just a great question to ask, right? You're here, you're good people, you're showing up on a Friday morning. Different people talk about this, and hey, we know we're doing well, so how can I support? What does good look like? Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so the third gap, the action gap. This is just the space between maybe what you want someone else to do and what they're actually doing, like dishes. And there was a woman, Janie, and she was running a plant, and someone walked in the morning and said, "Not going to be a good day." Okay, uh, that's probably not what we want to hear this morning. He says, we'll be lucky to make 2 pallets today, and the target's 5. So Janie, in her mind, she's a great leader, great woman. She's rising up, but her past behavior would be like, oh no, we're going to hit 5 today. And I'm going to follow up with you every hour and make sure that you're doing your job. And she would kind of push for that. The challenge is with those statements of like, do your dishes, make sure you hit target, is that statements, they make me sad because what we learn of statements, they divide us. When we say, hey, you should do this, or we need this, that actually creates separation. So Janie, after some coaching sessions she took a different approach. She's like, when have you hit 5 before? Like, what went well? She says, well, we had lots of material. We didn't run out of parts. And okay, so then what does good look like then if you don't run out of parts? Like, what would it have to look like if you didn't run out of parts today? She says, well, the buffers would be full of parts, or we wouldn't run out on these buffers. She says, well, what can we do to make sure we don't run out? He's like, well, we have a changeover coming up, so we could, do something. I could probably help, and I can grab another person over here, and we can. So you can just tell that whole conversation started winding together, and they hit 5 because she started asking more questions. Because questions unite us, and statements will divide us, and that's how those deeper conversations come together. This is Dyson when I took him to the rehab, the detox center the next morning after he told me that he couldn't stop drinking. I called a friend and we actually got him in here. And then I just want you to have this visual, like, what are your dirty dishes today? Well, I want you to think about that today. What are your dirty dishes? What are you focused on that maybe isn't a real problem and you just need to have a deeper conversation? And then, yeah, how we think we show up versus how other people see us. This was in my young days when I still did cut off my hair then, but that's when I had the feelings, not addressing the feelings. We talked about dialogue today, conversations. We talked about the expectation gap, what others expect versus what we believe. These are these old cars that's how long ago it was. These are old cars that we were making when Tom was stomping his foot. Then the action gap. We want to close that gap as well. So really the problem is that we get disconnected. Our solution is connection, and how we get there is curiosity. And because right now we know a lot of people are not engaged at work. And actually, like in general in North America, 2/3 of the workforce is not engaged. So when you run into a problem, are you bringing gas? Because you're going to put more fuel on the fire. Woo! We're really behind with that client today. I don't know how you guys going to deliver on time. This is a problem. I wouldn't have done it that way. I certainly would have, you guys should have done this. Why, that's just making more problems. Are you bringing water? Are you saying, oh, what's going on? Yeah, that sounds stressful. What do we need to do? And like you guys like that question, like how can I support? Bring some water, put that fire out. Stay curious. I want you all to stay curious. This is somebody took a picture of this and gave it to me. It was a previous client. And this is Dyson just last year. So I'm going to leave this up here. But so Dyson on February 26th, 2025 will be 4 years sober. 4 years sober, February 26th, 2025. So it took a couple more years, but I just talked to him last night. He's working in Northern Ontario. He's graduating from college as a counselor for addiction, because he doesn't. He went to a rehab clinic and he actually got clean. So he uses no mind-altering substances. So no marijuana, no alcohol, no nothing. And he's helping people now, people that are older than him. And it's been a really tough road. And I'm just so proud of him. Like on Christmas, he worked on Christmas and he was with people that were in that detox center. It's a different one, but very similar to what he experienced. If I don't make that change in me, I don't know if he's sober. I don't even know if he's here or if he's helping other people. So our own curiosity and how we show up impacts lives. My relationship with Sonny, for him to invite me into your sacred space is just a gift. And he was curious about me, and I'm curious about your group. Last, probably not enough time for the last poll, but the last poll was just like, are you more curious? Are you a little more curious than you were 59 minutes ago? And I hope you all are. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, team, for joining our first session of 2025. There's so many more sessions to come, but Trevor, you are special. And this session was so special, high impact session. And thank you so much, my friend. Truly, truly appreciate you. Thank you.